I think the people that I get to work with day in, day out, the culture from the top down. We're a God-fearing, God-honoring company. He has blessed us, and to work in a place like that day in, day out is truly, I think, an exception in our country. That I wish we had more places like that.
We're grateful for the cool weather. The relief that it's given so many in our part of the country. Also those that are struggling with fires still yet down south, the homes that are destroyed. And we just pray your hand on the residents there, on the responders, those that are seeing to the needs of those folks. So we've experienced some of that ourselves, and so we just pray for them. We will lift up this meeting for the men and women who have taken on the task of making decisions for our city. We pray special blessings on them and their families and the decisions that they make. We lift these things up to you. In your Son's name. Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if everybody can take a seat, we have some proclamations.
Good afternoon. I think who I'm looking for today. Carol Monroe and Marion Gammersbelt.
And Michael Stevens.
And Stevens. Come on. We've got a little proclamation, and we have numerous copies. So I'm going to read the proclamation first, and then if somebody wants to be the spokesperson, that would be. Okay. Good. Whereas our founding fathers, in order to secure the blessings of liberty for themselves and their posterity, did ordain and establish a Constitution for the United States of America. And whereas it is the greatest importance that all citizens fully understand the provisions and principles contained in the Constitution in order to support it, preserve it, and defend it against encroachment. And whereas the 223rd anniversary of the signing of the Constitution provides an historic opportunity for all Americans to learn about and recall the achievements of our founders and to reflect on the rights and privileges of citizenship as well as its attendant responsibilities. And whereas the independence guaranteed to the American people by the Constitution should be celebrated by appropriate ceremonies and activities during Constitution, September 11th through 17th, as designated by proclamation of the President of the United States of America in accordance with Public Law 915. Now, therefore, we, Mayor and City Commissioners of the City of Amarillo, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of September 11th to 17th as Constitution Week in Amarillo. And the Llano Estacado DAR chapter urges all citizens to pay special attention during this week to our federal Constitution and the advantages of American citizenship. And there are also copies to the John Alden Society DAR chapter.
No, it's children. It's children.
Oh, is it? Yeah. That's for the children.
And the sons.
Really? Could you tell us about that side too? I'd like to hear about that. I'm not aware of that. And then we have the Caldor Society CAR chapter. And we've got the Arredondo DAR chapter. And we've got one more here, which is the Esther McCrory DAR chapter. So I'm going to turn these over to you with my thanks.
Mayor Harpo, members of the Commission, we deeply appreciate the issuance of these proclamations celebrating and honoring the Constitution, our Constitution of the United States of America. The local DAR chapters, Arredondo chapter, Esther McCrory, and Llano Estacado, the Sons of the American Revolution Society, and the Children of the American Revolution Society, wholeheartedly thank you.
We celebrate
Constitution Week each year with a luncheon. But our purpose, of course, is to keep in mind what our ancestors did in creating this country for us. Thank you.
I'm the next teacher. Thank you.
We now have a special presentation by Dr. Matt Richardson with the Health Department for the city.
Great.
Dr. Richardson.
I have an award to present to the City Commission, the Mayor and Commission. This is the 2010 Texas Heart and Stroke Healthy City Recognition Program. This is from the Texas Department of State Health Services, and they are pleased to present the designation of silver status to the City of Amarillo based on the community's resources in addressing heart and stroke healthy city programs between the hospitals and the medical providers, just all of the community assets that we have. So they recognized us, and we recognize you as a silver award winner for the city. So. There is something better than silver. There is a gold out there, so we'll work on that next year. Work on that next year for sure. And in light of this, they have also, the State Health Department has also chosen to award with some recognition the individual who was responsible for this assessment and basically the work that goes into this assessment, Casey Stoughton. And so we wanted, Mr. Mayor, if you would present this to Casey Stoughton. The Texas Heart and Stroke Healthy City Award of Recognition goes to Casey Stoughton with the Amarillo Public Health Department for the invaluable contribution of the city liaison to the effort. So.
Well, those are great awards, and we can't express how much we appreciate all the work the county or the city health department does. I got to visit over there not long ago, and I will tell you that it's amazing the number of people they serve and the quality of the work they do for the people that are there. So a great need, and they fill that need very well to the amount that their funds can deal with, and sadly their funds are cut back, but they still strive to do the most they can for our citizens. They do a great job. Thank you all very much. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Amarillo City Commission, held on the third floor at City Hall each Tuesday at 3 p.m., except for one a month. We hold it at 5:30. The first item for business on today's agenda is the minutes. Attached is a copy of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I would move for approval of those minutes as presented.
Those minutes are approval of the regular commission meeting from September 6th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, corrections to the minutes? Not. All those in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes pass with a 5-0 vote. Number 2, public hearing on fiscal year 2011-2012. This budget will raise more total property tax than last year's budget by $1,484,450, or 4.96% of that amount. $496,381 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax rolls this year. Do we have any comments about this item? Basically, it's just a reading of what the facts are. Any comments from the audience? Okay, it does not require any action, so excuse me. Oh, pardon me. Excuse me.
My name is Jimmy Tusley Hammond. I live at 1514 South Piers. When y'all started the Terry Fund back in 2006, the game started out, if you would have started a rain gauge fund instead, in my opinion, if you would have started a rain gauge fund instead, all the maintenance on the streets and the maintenance on the sewage center, we wouldn't have that problem today, I believe.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, in 2006, when you started the terrace project, instead of starting that, instead if you would have started like a rainy day fund, you could have used that money for the problems that we've had with our streets way back then until now. We've been current on the streets, and we'll have maintenance kept up on the Civic Center all the way up to date.
Mr. Hammond.
What's the revenue stream? Where's the money coming from?
From our property taxes. See, if you hadn't...
That doesn't have to do with tiers.
Well, the property tax that was used to form tiers, if you used it for other things, if you will use it for the highway fund and for the keeping up for the maintenance of the Civic Center, we wouldn't be in bad shape in them two areas today.
Jimmy, you may need some instruction about the tiers fund and how that develops. There's only money that goes into that pot from value that's raised above what that value was in 2006, and it's only in that zone, and it has to be, by state rule, reinvested into that zone for projects. It can't be used in any other part of the city. And so what had happened is over a 20-year period, that zone had only increased in value about 1%, where the rest of the city had gone up 8 to 9% over that period of time, every 10 years. And so what we did is to revitalize that. We said if there's new investment in that property area, the incremental increase of tax that only flows in from that area gets reinvested in an area. It's not allowable, although, I mean, your idea is thoughtful, but it's not allowable. Okay. It's not allowable.
I know you can't read it fast. I just want to point that out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How y'all doing? My name is Philip Lopez. I'm a visitor of Potter County, 3804 Northeast 24th. I've lived here just about all my life, about 68 years. I think the big thing about it is a bad timing right now to increase taxes. Maybe a smaller amount or something, but it's bad timing. You've got drought, you've got all them fires, you've got all this stuff going on. The economy is just in bad shape right now. We got an electric bill that's going to go up for people that are not seniors, that are the younger people that are coming in. We've got a gas bill that'll go up, but we have a hard winter. We've got you can already see the price on grocery stores. If you do any shopping at all, you can already see it's going up. They're stealing hay. We got the rancher and the farmers being hurt by this drought real bad, And right now, I think it's bad timing. If you got any other way that you could use, and I imagine there's some money somewhere that you can use, at least cut the price down on it. We got the highest tax. We got higher tax in Canyon. So businesses and people are going to move to Canyon. We got a higher tax, property tax than Lubbock. So people are going to move. We have, this is bad timing right now. The economy is bad. People don't have any faith in our politicians that we elected. It's not so much faith as it's fear. We don't know what's going to happen. Where are they going to get us again? Where are they going to gouge us again? And this covers everything. I mean, the cost of gas. They're trying to program us on gas when we figure $3 ain't too bad. Well, bull corn. If you're in a fixed income with some of the people that are coming up, you might say it doesn't hurt me because of my age and what all. But it hurts the people that are coming in at Amarillo and trying to start a business, starting to raise a family and buy a house or build a home. They're going to go somewhere else where the taxes are cheaper. That's all I've got. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sir, I think that this point of information, we are considerably, even with this raise, under what Lubbock's tax is. Mr. City Manager, do you by chance recall?
I haven't.
Thank you. And I don't know the number in Canyon, but I believe, and of course the difficult thing is for everybody to say, okay, we get a tax bill, and there's several entities that tax us on that bill. If we look at the specifics of the city tax, we still have the second lowest, even with this increase, have the second lowest tax rate in the state of Texas. And I think that we're...
Sorry for the scribbling.
I understand. But we're still about, it looks to me like about 8 cents under what Lubbock is doing this. 8 cents, so it's substantially less right here. Yeah. It's about 8 cents. But the fact is, that is a fact. So, okay, any other comments?
Hello, Trina Fournier, 4427 South Hayden. I have lots of questions because I don't understand a lot of the stuff that I was reading on the budget. I spent hours and hours looking over all that, comparing stuff and trying to figure it out. It's pretty complicated. So I have a lot of questions, some of them just general questions. So my first question is, if I ask a question and wait for a response, will my time keep going or does it stop?
Well, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, well then I'll ask all my questions and I'll let you answer.
And I'll make a list.
Okay, my first one is about the photographic enforcement. That's the red light cameras, right? Is that correct? That's all the red light cameras. Well, in looking at the revenue that we expect from that, it's $840,000. The cost of it in the expenditure side is $859,817. That's a loss of almost $20,000 a year. That's not very much in the city budget, it really isn't, but seems like a waste of money to me if we're not even it's not breaking even. The other thing I wanted to know, what is miscellaneous revenue? I don't know what that is. I saw that in a few places, miscellaneous revenue. I have another question about how the PIDs work. How are they formed? Who decides? What's their function? Because I've read some stuff about it, and I kind of have an idea, but I'd just like some clarification on that. And if it's what I understand it to be, where the money from that is used to do things like plant trees and grass and all of that, isn't that something better handled by just a homeowners association instead of something handled by the city? I also noticed there was a big decrease in the summer lunch program funds from 2009. It was like $225,000, and then last year and this year it's only budgeted $190,000. Just wondering about if that's like a state-funded thing and they cut the funds. The other thing was the Globe News Center. The budget for that every year is like $300,000 or so. I didn't realize, I guess, that the city was funding that in that way, just every year. I knew we'd given some money toward the end of the construction or whatever to cover that cost, but I didn't realize that we were putting out for that every year, and I'd like to know where that's going and why are we using that. The housing assistance has taken a big cut. In 2009, the actual was $680,513. In 10, it was only budgeted a little over $11,000, and this year only $15,000. Just wondering about the difference in those. That was a lot of difference. I'd like to understand what the JAG fund is for and how it works, and what the directive. The JAG. It's some kind of grant fund, and what the directed patrol.
I would refer some of these to our city manager, although let me kind of go back through them and see if I've got them. Photographic enforcement, I know that we are able to put money into traffic with that. Could you delineate that a little bit, Mr. Atkins?
Absolutely, Mayor. The red light camera fund, each year, we do as close a job as we can of budgeting the actual expenses out to the revenues in. By state law, what we can spend those funds on is pretty restricted, and it basically has to go towards something that improves traffic safety. Common examples of that are when we want to add a new signalized intersection, an intersection that has stoplights. Rather than funding that with our property tax money, we fund that with the revenues out of the red light cameras. Certain other safety improvements that help for traffic safety are funded out of that rather than funding them out of the property taxes. The difference in the budget and the expense this year, that is covered by a very small balance or a reserve that we carry in that account so that it does take care of itself, year to year. So that's not $20,000 that's then being made up from something else, such as a property tax or sales tax or one of those. Did that get that one? Okay. Mayor?
Trina, also, before we go on, I'd like to compliment you on your study of the budget. A lot of people take the time to do that. There are a lot of intricacies, and you have just we're getting you're getting a little bit of a taste for all the questions we ask of these folks when we study this for 3 days. And it goes on for 8 hours a day. But it is important to know what those are. The next thing you brought up was miscellaneous revenue. Without a specific, I don't know that we can answer that. There are miscellaneous. In my business and in my personal finances, never like to see miscellaneous, so I share your concern. But I will tell you, as we reviewed the budget, I didn't see anything miscellaneous that I had any heartburn about after we discussed it. I don't know specifically.
It would vary by the department. That's a revenue that's not part of the accounting codes that we have to specific items. So if I knew which particular departmental budget you were asking about, we'd be glad to get you that direct answer.
Mr. Axman, as a whole, those are not much of the total of each individual department's budget.
That is correct.
Okay.
And they may be something as minor as a filing fee that you don't see typically throughout the year or something to that effect. But again, it's a department by department. They're going to be different everywhere you have them.
But if you have specifics, we certainly would offer answers. The next one I had was summer lunch program. I think that's simply a cutting of federal funds. It comes through CBDG. Is that correct? State, it flows back to us. We send a lot of money back to Washington, to the state, and I don't know that we get always the same amount back. I think usually we don't.
Stop sending it to Washington then?
They won't let us. They'll put me in jail for doing that personally. I don't know if I want to try that. The PIDs. PIDs are really a group comes together and says, sort of like a neighborhood association, but this adds some legalities to it so that they're protected. So that if somebody doesn't pay their PID assessment or whatever. So a group would form in a neighborhood, and as we are suggesting we might do in downtown, we might ask business owners, property owners in a small part of downtown to develop a PID. And over 50% of the owners have to agree to do it, and then they form their own board, and they set up a tax with certain services that they want to provide. For instance, in downtown's case, maybe more security, maybe more trash pickup, maybe more lighting, whatever it is they decide. Same is true in these others we're approving, say, for instance, Tutbury or Colonies. They have decided to carry a higher level of services. They tax themselves for it. We just fund it back to them as we collect that tax for that PID. It's a legal entity that the state sets up to protect all the people in that area. It is accomplished, I think you're right, sometimes with neighborhood associations, but I don't think there's any backbone in it. In my view, what the PID does in common language is gives a backbone to that so people are able to.
Plus, it's added to their tax bill. And when they receive their billing for their taxes, it has the PID built into them.
It does not affect anyone else except in that geographic area. And they have voted to do it to themselves. They have had a vote and agreed by majority to do that. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, that's a very good explanation. I might add a few further points to that. The improvements, the I in the PID, the Public Improvement District, those improvements typically are going to be in a public right-of-way or a publicly owned piece of land, such as a park. And I think probably that ownership is what most clearly differentiates it from how a homeowners association would do it. So they are improvements above and beyond what the city would normally pay for on a piece of public property. And then the owners in and around that area who have chosen to have those pay for it. They set their budget. By setting their budget, they decide what they're going to charge themselves for those improvements. It is collected off of their tax bill and then turned around straight back to that to pay for those improvements. An example of that was last week we awarded a contract to do certain mowing, weeding, landscaping at several of the different public improvement districts. It was a contract awarded by the city. It's 100% funded by the people who live in those individual districts rather than funded by the city.
The other one, I think we discussed summer lunch program, basically a cut of funds. We'd love for that not to be cut, but we did maintain still a good summer lunch program in the parks, did we not?
We did, and certainly that's one of those programs that if we could have twice what they provide for us, we'd love to have that. That program's fully subscribed. It's a huge benefit to many kids over the years. But the summer lunch program, just as the housing assistance program that was recommended, those have all seen some pretty severe cuts coming from the granting agencies, be that state or be that federal. And unfortunately, probably not the summer months without having the housing programs. We're likely to see that continue for the next few years. They're telling us to expect an average of a 16% reduction across the board. Some of the accounts are a little bit higher, some are a little lower, but that's what they're telling us to plan for.
We're going to see that in many other programs, and we've seen it in the Texas Workforce Commission. Last year they were cut 25%. This year they were cut another 25%. It sounds like 50% of their funding is gone in the time that we need jobs. But it's just the things we're going to live with in the next few years. Mr. City Manager, would you kind of go through the Globe News Center's budget? The number was referred to as $300,000. I know some of that comes through specific funds that can only go to that source.
Certainly, Mayor, and that's an excellent question, and probably something that maybe we should have done a better job explaining over the years. The Globe News Center is owned and operated by the city. It is part of the Civic Center complex, and then we have broken down into kind of the main functional areas, the operations that we have at the Civic Center as a whole. Because the Globe News Center is a separate building, it's easy to have a separate budget for it, where we can pull it out, set it on the table, and really watch that. Within the Civic Center, you have some other budgets as well: operations, promotions, box office, and sports, I think, being the main ones off the top of my head. Each of those has an expense. All those roll together. The Civic Center has certain revenues each year that we get from rents or from ticket sales or from whatever it may be. You take those expenses, you offset with your revenue. The difference is a loss, and always has been. I'm not aware of a Civic Center anywhere in the country that doesn't operate at somewhat of a loss. What Amarillo's done that we're very proud of, though, 100% of that gap is funded through your hotel occupancy taxes that come to the city. It's not funded anywhere out of our general fund dollars. And I think the net, and please don't hold me to this exactly, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say the net at the end of the day at the Globe News Center is about 169. Am I close? 189?
I think it's 189.
189 is that net loss, but again, then that's covered by the hotel occupancy tax.
There also is a net loss for the Civic Center in general.
For everything at the box office.
It has occurred since the beginning of the Civic Center.
Correct.
So when we incorporated that into our Civic Center complex, we just simply decided to track that. But I understand that the revenues coming in from that are far above what was projected when it was originally taken.
That's correct as well. The utilization of that facility has been much higher than was originally projected.
And it is a fact that it cost the city about $1.8 million to close that project out. But it's also a fact that over $31 million was donated by residents here, people in the region, to provide that gift to Amarillo. And I think it certainly, in my view, is a gift to Amarillo.
I think the only other issue to mention is the Windows on a Wider World program that has come through the Globe News Center, educating kids from all over not just the city, but the region, has been dramatically more successful than anybody ever imagined. So if anybody wants to ever give us a $31 million facility for 1.8, I'll take it.
Well, and I would tell you, I was against that when it first started. I was convinced otherwise as we decided. And in my mind, when I was finished hearing the arguments about why we were participating in that, I was on the city commission when that last bit of money was voted in. I take responsibility for changing my mind and voting for that. But when it simply was laid out and I looked at it, I said, here's somebody laying $90 bill on the table. And if I put down a nickel, I can have the whole dollar. In my mind, that's how I justified it. And I think that I think that's been proven out that it has been a great asset to the city. Does everybody use it? Probably not. Does everybody use the golf courses or every street in town? Probably not. But they're there as part of our community, public-private partnership, which is a city. That's what our city is a public-private partnership. The only other thing that I saw that I don't have any idea what it refers to, and the city manager doesn't, is JAG fund. Do you know it?
Yes, sir.
Good. I missed that one.
In fact, we can probably, on my list, I had two left, questions about JAG and about Directed Patrol. JAG stands for Justice Assistance Grant. It's a targeted grant that comes through primarily law enforcement that allows us to either perform certain functions. In the case of directed patrol, that's exactly what it is. That's where you have a grant project for seatbelt enforcement, DWI enforcement over a holiday, things like that would be directed patrol. The JAG grant provides, I believe, training and equipment when those funds are available. So funds we don't otherwise have to spend out of our local pocket.
Trina, I think that was all that I wrote down. Does that? I want to compliment you on your discerning what's there, and I hope we've provided some illumination of what your concerns are. If you have others, please call us at any time. Okay. Any other comments? Sir, please.
Yeah, going back down 6013 Princeton, let me see if I understand this. I think I read the paper where we're now cutting off that funding, or that covering the losses for the Globe News Center. Is that correct or not correct? They're to stand on their own, along with the Civic Center now, that they will not be getting this $300,000 they lost last year, and then the Civic Center, I think, lost $1.6 million. I believe is correct. So from this point on out, they are going to have to carry their own weight. Is that correct or not correct?
Not correct.
Okay. Then where is the? Do they still get the same, or are we still going to carry their cover with the motel tax? Are we still going to cover their losses, both of them?
I think that was addressed in the last answer.
Well, I haven't been in 3 weeks.
No, I'm sorry, the young lady.
Well,
specifically, I'm wondering what different than the answer we just gave the young lady. Could you specify what your question is?
Well, my question is, I understood if I read it right in the newspaper, maybe I didn't. I thought that we were not going to, the Civic Center and the Globe News Center both were going to have to carry their own weight.
No, that was the first question I answered. Those maintain their area of the budget, and it comes in from hotel, motel.
Yes, I understand where it comes from. I thought I read where we wasn't going to do that anymore. We was going to take that hotel tax and put it somewhere else.
Not correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments? Okay, if not, we don't require any action on this. We'll move on to ordinance number 7295. This is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the City of Amarillo budget for 2011-2012 fiscal year. The budget allows for the city to continue providing effective public services, programs, and assistance to Amarillo residents in the upcoming year. Are there any comments from the Commission about this ordinance? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number 7295. It was listed 7238. The correction is ordinance number 7295.
Yes, and if you'll note on, if you have papers, we struck the 7238 and made it 7295. So that is the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, we didn't get a second. I apologize. I was making that correction and jumped.
I just have a point of clarification.
We need a second.
I think me speaking to that constitutes a second, does it not?
Under Robert's Rules of Order, not under our common practice, but that will make that a second.
Okay. May I discuss it?
Certainly.
I want to clarify before we vote on this budget. This includes the budget review that we have undertaken during the 3 days in August. Does this also include the proposed increases proposed by the city staff?
Mr. City Manager, how did you deal with that?
This budget ordinance, as presented, incorporates the base budget that we reviewed in August, and then those additional changes that were identified. One being the addition of the prosecutor court as a revenue neutral base, the 2 additional police officers and their equipment from that roughly just right under $200 million, and then the capital money that would come out from the 0.76 penny. So it incorporates the additional 1 cent that was proposed in August.
So this does cover the ability to increase the repair of streets.
Yes. So an additional $0.25 for police officers and additional 0.75 roughly cents for additional overtime.
And if I might, I would, the additional The additional for the police officers and 2 additional officers and equipment, bringing the total to 12. $201,936. That's that roughly quarter. And then we had the additional funding for the overlay project, $637,000, which would be roughly 3/4. And that includes the additional capital that we brought in. It is not for the tax increases. It's one-time money. That being $100,000 for graffiti removal, $350,000 for the drainage project on Farmers Avenue from Georgia to Western, and the one-time $500,000 added to the overlay project. Okay. So it incorporates all that.
Okay, and so we are at the point where we have second. Is there any discussion, other discussion from the commissioners or questions about ordinance number 7295? It was corrected from 7238. Any from the audience? Any other questions or comments? Not. All those in favor of passing ordinance number 7295?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, aye.
That is a 4-1 vote. Next is ordinance number 7296. If you make a note, that had been listed as 7239. Simple error, it should be 7296. This is the first reading of an ordinance approving the City of Amarillo tax roll, setting the ad valorem tax rate, and levying a tax on all properties subject to taxation within the city for the 2011 tax year. This ordinance establishes an ad valorem tax rate of 0.29230 per $100 property valuation for city maintenance and operation expenses, and 0.02779 per $100 property valuation for existing debt expense, resulting in a total ad valorem tax rate of 0.32009 per 100 property valuation. Are there any comments from the commission on this ordinance? Any comments from the audience?
Trina Cormier, 4427 South Hayden. I just had kind of a simple question about the way this is presented in the agenda. I think every time I've seen this presented in the agenda, the number given for the average price of a home and then the tax that it would get from that has been different every time. Why is that?
Very good question. The state of Texas, and I will defer to whoever of authority would like to answer this, but the state of Texas has seen fit to change the way that's enumerated every year. And it makes it more confusing each time. So I can tell you we had much discussion and consternation about this among us commissioners as we proceeded to try and figure out what in the world they were talking about. But we will try and make it as simple as possible. You want to take this, Mr. City Manager?
I will try to simply ask.
This is why he gets the big bucks, this one right here.
Thank you for noticing that. And you would see that not only in the documents that we have published as part of our City Commission agenda, but you can look in the notices in the paper, and you will see those differences. The calculations that the state requires us to do for part of the tax rate are based on the value of an average home. That's roughly $112,000 this year. That's that $16.45 and the 3.51 out of that. Then you get to this posting, and here in a minute you'll hear some very odd but prescriptive language that the state makes us use for the motions. When you get to this posting, rather than staying with how these numbers have been done through the entirety of our process, we now switch not to the average home, but to a $100,000 home. So the difference is the $12,000 valuation. The tax rate's the same, the math is the same. They're just forcing us to show it in two completely different numerical formats.
Okay, so who do I call to get them to get rid of this kind of...
Jill Senator, full price, Johnson.
It's state legislation. We have to subscribe to this. We have to do it exactly correctly. And we are checked legally by this.
Seems really silly to me, but okay. Thank you.
No, I think you present a good question. We would tell them that it's just as confusing as it appears to be to you. But the fact is, once you sort through all that, we're basically dealing with the same numbers in different formats, is my explanation. Okay, any other comments about this ordinance? From the commission, from the audience? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.29230 for maintenance and operations and 0.02779 for existing debt expenses for a total rate of 0.32009 per $100 valuation, which is effectively a 3.51% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Sims. All those in favor of passing ordinance number 7296 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That passes with a 4-1 vote. The next item for business is the ordinance number 7294. This is the second and final reading of the ordinance reappointing existing judges now serving on the City of Amarillo's Municipal Court. These appointments are for a 2-year period as follows. Donna Clayton, full-time presiding judge. Jennifer Cates, part-time associate judge. Donald Conley, part-time associate judge. Sonia Letson, part-time associate judge. Any discussion about ordinance number 7294 from the commission? From the audience? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move for approval of ordinance number 7294.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of ordinance number 7294?
Aye.
Opposed? That ordinance passes with a 5-0 vote. Resolution approval of 2011-2012 Amarillo Hospital District budget. This resolution approves the 2011-2012 budget and associated programs of services for the Amarillo Hospital District. This budget is recommended for approval by the Amarillo Hospital District Board of Managers. Any discussion about this resolution? From the commission, from the audience? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of the 2011-2012 Amarillo Hospital District budget.
Second.
All those in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? This resolution passes with a 5-0 vote. Resolution approval of 2011-2012 Amarillo Potter Event Venue District budget. This resolution approves the 2011-2012 budget of the Amarillo Potter Event Venue District. This budget is funded through a 5% car rental tax and a 2% hotel occupancy tax. The Amarillo Potter Event Venue District operates and maintains voter-approved entertainment venues within the city. This budget is recommended for approval by the Amarillo Potter Event Venue District Board. Any discussion about this resolution from the commission? From the audience? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve the budget of the 2011-2012 Amarillo Potter Event Venue District.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? This resolution passes with a 5-0 vote. Appointments to boards and commissions. Appointments are needed for the following boards and commissions. The Airport Board to fill a 3-year term. The Amarillo Hospital District Board of Managers to fill a 2-year term. And the Civil Service Commission 3-year term. And the Parks and Recreation Commission 3-year terms.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we approve the following appointments. For the Airport Board, we reappoint for a second term Joanna Hillman and Dale Williams. For the Amarillo Hospital District Board of Manager, we reappoint Claudette Duff for a second term, and in place of Nancy Christer, appoint Rodney Ruthart. And on the Civil Service Commission, a 3-year term, in place of the late Alan Roberts, we appoint Lawrence Walker. And on Parks and Rec Commission, we replace Daniel Martinez with Renee McCollum and reappoint Cameron Monroe. And then in place of Brian Scott, appoint Joe Michael Rivera. And then on the Vineyards Public Improvement District for the initial one-year term, the three-member advisory board will be made up of Thomas Nielsen Jr., and Eric Nielsen.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the commission on these appointments? Any discussion from the audience on these appointments? Not? Hear a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes with a 5-0 vote. Consent agenda. It's recommended that the following items be approved and the city manager be authorized to execute all documents necessary for each transaction. A is the award of Civic Center Auditorium sound system upgrade. B is the approval of an agreement for services for Center City of Amarillo, Inc. C is the approval of water meters annual contract. Is there any item that needs to be removed for separate consideration by the commission? If not, is there any I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move for approval of the consent agenda, but I'd like to point out an appreciation for the hard work that Center City does. Continue to do a great job. Keep it up. You're doing good.
What did you say?
I second the motion and ditto on Center City.
I think as comment about these, if there's any comment the commissioners like to make, I think that we have seen them work diligently for 20 years plus, and they have a great board of volunteers that work diligently to promote our city and promote our downtown. And I think as many of the people that have served on that board have said, that our downtown is like the living room of our city. I think many of us subscribe to that thought and believe that it is a very important part, something we can't see deteriorate, and we will see enhanced. And I believe that their efforts have put up $400,000 of their money that volunteers have raised with various projects in the city. And I think that that is money that is totally separate from what we're approving in our budget. They have pumped that money back into downtown and filled some gaps finally for us to be able to propose $113 million renovation of downtown without any increase in property tax to do that. And they were certainly part of that. So I would say they have done a yeoman's effort for our city. Any other comments? Yes. Any other comments about the consent agenda? All those in favor of any comments from the audience about the consent agenda? Yes.
And still, Jimmy Cussingham, I still live at 1514 South Pierce. Some of the people that was failed to get mentioned to help raise funds for Center City is the restaurant owners that make time to come out and cook the food to serve to everybody.
Absolutely, Jimmy. Good comment. There's a lot of effort from the committee that come together for their events. Thank you very much.
Already, honors.
Thank you for pointing that out. Any other comments about the consent agenda?
I've seen the work that Center City has done, and they've gone out all out. But I'd like to see an ordinance say where they spread out them bars a little further. They don't have them all on one street. I've seen other cities have this, and what it turns out to be is a lot of problems with the police force. It also creates a lot of slum. I've seen it in Long Beach. I've seen it in Los Angeles, different areas. Because you got too many bars too close to each other. You go to Grand Junction, Colorado, different place like that. They got an art place. They got a place for you to eat nice food, but they don't have all them bars. And they're making good money on the downtown, and it's beautiful downtown. But anytime you get all this right next to each other, you're going to create problems. And I've seen it in other cities. I've seen it in other places, But the Center City is doing an excellent job. But I think there ought to be some control on how close those bars should be. Spread them out.
I understand. It isn't. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's call for a vote on the excusable.
Alan Abraham, 7205 Southwest 35th, 791. Curious about the investment in sound equipment in our center, in our civic center, or civic, whatever it is. Is it salvageable when we decide soon what we are going to have to do with that.
That same question was raised in the
And secondly, well, wait a minute. What is the need in the first place for it to be?
Mr. Abraham, we asked those questions, and the answer was that was installed when it was new back in the 60s, 68 or 9, and we are able to use that in the upgrades that are further done in the Civic Center. Now, this is not in the Coliseum, this is in the auditorium. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Not? All those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda passes 5-0. Okay. This concludes today's regularly scheduled agenda of the Amarillo City Commission. It is, however, customary at this time to allow citizens of this community on matters pertaining to city policy, programs, and services to speak to the Commission, and the floor is now open for those comments. If there are no comments, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for being here today.